Your relative has been in a terrible accident. The person driving was a member of their own family. They don't want to look like they're the kind of person to sue, but they're disoriented, they're scared. Maybe they've got a cognitive injury, they're not thinking very clearly. They're not hearing from the insurance company, or they are hearing from the insurance company who wants to do a telephone interview of their version of the facts. They may have been struck by somebody with a great deal of insurance. They may have been injured by somebody with very little insurance, and therefore finding out how much uninsured or underinsured coverage they had and the person who owned the vehicle had is critical. They're afraid that finding out that information will offend that other relative. There are myriad questions that we've worked with in the 44-year period since I came back from the Air Force, and even the 4 years that I was an Air Force claims officer helping collect what they're called subrogation claims, what are called subrogation claims. That means claims from your own insurance carrier. I was able to solve a problem for a man last week who is on means-tested benefits because they wouldn't take his medical card, and he was getting bills for a large amount of medical expenses that he couldn't afford. It took one letter and one conversation with him to soothe his worries that they have to take his medical card. Those bills need to be taken care of. Once the hospital and the doctor take that medical card, then they must take that as their full payment. We have to honor claims for Medicaid and Medicare and pay them what they've paid out, but sometimes that's only 30% of what would have been paid if they waited and collected from the tortfeasor, the guy or gal who caused the collision. Now think about that. A person gets $20,000 and they got $15,000 in medical bills, and they have to pay all those medical bills when they get their settlement. Or they get exactly the same settlement. Turns out Medicaid's paid $4,000 for those services, but the settlement is for $20,000 or less, and the law says they don't have to pay back Medicaid. So I take my 20% plus perhaps $500 in costs, and they end up with $15,000 or $18,000 more than they would have got if they didn't call me. That's a good reason to call a lawyer when you're in that hospital. And what of the case in which the claim is 6 or 7 figures and you've been hit by a commercial vehicle and you need to establish that the driver of that commercial vehicle was negligent, perhaps by proving they drove too many hours, they were texting on a device, they weren't properly trained by their employer, or any of it, or they were on drugs. Those are facts that you can't get unless you have a lawyer helping you ferret out that information. I hope that explains the need for a lawyer when you're injured and a need as soon as you can get to that lawyer.